Just like, it's yucky.
Yeah. But I was kind of thinking, why is there an ick factor? So when I think
Well, there's not.
about
There's an ick factor for some people, and then there's not an ick factor for other. Well, and by the way, there doesn't seem to be much of an ick factor with men at all. It seems like the ick factor is with
yes,
specifically
yes.
left-wing women.
So my point though is that it is a lot of women. And I think
A
when
lot
I
of
think
left-wing
back in
feminists, yeah.
history,
Yeah, go ahead.
when I
Go
think
ahead.
back in history, and you think of, there's a lot of examples in history of older men marrying very young women.
Yep.
And I can see the arguments for why they would do this. But now we have women's voices that we didn't really have in history. And now that women are speaking up,
Mhm.
they are expressing that this is wrong, this is immoral. So why are they doing this?
Well,
So the difference
hang on.
between
Let's back up
Okay.
real quick, and then I'll let you continue. I promise. I just want to clarify something. I
Okay.
actually don't ever hear them say it's immoral. I've
Okay.
never actually heard any of these feminists claim. Well, I mean, I've heard them claim it's
What
immoral,
about
but then I
wrong?
ask them what's immoral about it, and they say nothing. So so I would have to dispute that.
So
But
something's wrong. They think something's wrong.
yeah,
about it.
I mean, yeah, I can grant that they think something is wrong about it or not correct about it, or they intuitively don't like it, or it gives them the ick. But never actually heard them give an argument for the morality of it.
So I was thinking, what is the factor in the age gap relationship? And mostly it is experience, life experience. There's the older person who has more life experience
Mhm.
than the younger person. And I'm particularly zooming in on the really young. It doesn't have to be a big gap, but when the younger person is younger than 25,
Mhm.
there's not a lot of life experience. And I think that's what we're responding to, the wisdom of someone's getting manipulated
Mhm.
because one person has more life experience than the other.
Yeah, but that's going to be the case in every relationship.
But you definitely have more life experience if
Yes.
you've lived longer.
Yeah, but I mean so what? That doesn't. So you could agree with me, for instance, that a 22-year-old man could feasibly marry a 35-year-old woman, and the 22-year-old man has more life experience than the 35-year-old woman does.
Yes.
Yeah. So I mean,
And I'm saying
so
vice
if
versa.
that's
I'm
the
not
case,
saying just
hang on, and then I'll turn the floor back
Okay.
over. I promise. So if we can agree that that is true, right, then this argument really is kind of nonsensical from my purview, because we would be arguing that any time one person has more life experience than another, that means that somehow the relationship itself is immoral, and clearly we couldn't make that case, right?
Well, I'm kind of saying that there's a manipulation factor because someone knows more than the other person because they have more knowledge, because they've lived longer, just
Yeah.
basically from living longer.
Well, would you agree?
so
Would
the
you agree with
bigger
me?
the
Oh,
gap-
sorry. Go ahead. Go ahead. I'm
The
sorry.
bigger the age gap, the more manipulative it is.
Yeah, so when you make the declaration, so I'm going to reject a couple things. Reject this declaration. So I think you would agree with me that manipulations in relationships are wrong,
Yes.
regardless of age, right?
Yes.
Okay, so why is it assumed, even though in most relationships there's somebody manipulates the other to some degree? I mean, that's every relationship on planet Earth. I would say there's some forms of manipulation. Maybe there's a few where there's just none, but I think there's manipulation in most. My kind of argument back here is that what your problem would be is not with the age gap, but with manipulation. And you would say manipulation would be wrong even if they were the same age, right?
Yes.
Yeah. So then I don't understand what the age itself has to do with it. So if you were to feasibly have a man who was 50 who was married to a woman who's 25 and he's not manipulating her, what's the objection?
Well, I was thinking about Anna Nicole Smith.
Mm-hmm.
And their relationship.
The gold digger.
Yes. And manipulation happening on
She was
maybe
manipulating
both sides.
him. She was manipulating
Yeah,
him.
I agree. And when I think of like, doesn't Jane Fonda date way younger?
Men.
And
yeah.
you think she's manipulating that young, pool boy that she's dating?
No, I don't think so.
And
I think he wants to fuck her, so he does. That's what I think. I don't think it takes much manipulation. She just takes her clothes off, and he's like, "Yeah, sure."
Yeah, I guess my brain goes to, well, are we talking about just having sex, or are we talking about relationships?
Yeah, but even in a relationship,
marriage?
yeah, I mean, regardless, even in a relationship. So if you and I agree that manipulation can happen and does happen regardless of the age, if I were to present a relationship to you of a 50-year-old man with a 25-year-old woman and he is not manipulating her, what is the objection?
So I guess I'm speaking to the ick factor. Like,
So you just think it's yucky?
Well, what I'm giving validation to the ick factor and why we experience it when we look at these relationships.
Mm-hmm.
And
Well, I don't think we
like,
collectively
when you think
do.
of a-
I don't think
when
we
you think of
collectively
a-
do, but
Well, when you think of like a 30-year-old with a 15-year-old.
okay, now hang on. Now you're
I know you're gonna
greatly
say,
moving the goalposts now
but wait a
to
minute.
something totally
why
different.
is it ick? But why is it ick with that and not
Because it's
10
not
years
that's
later?
not a woman, that's a child. And because it's a child, that's why there's a collective ick.
But she is, she's gone through puberty, maturity.
No, she hasn't.
So
She's
she's a
still
sexual
going.
being.
No, she's not gone through puberty. She's still going through puberty.
She's
hasn't.
able to
Hang
have
on,
a
hang
baby.
on. She's
How is she
still
still going
going.
through it?
You're not complete with puberty just because you can have a child. That's not completion of puberty.
Well, what is the completion of it?
Well, usually the
Turning a
completion of
certain
it
age?
is if the vaginal canal is completely intact and your organs are fully grown and all of these different things. And this usually happens.
you cannot-
Stop. Let me finish before you cut me off. Usually the completion of these things happens around 18, 19 years old. Sometimes a little earlier,
well,
but because it
look that up.
generally happens, you can look it up. I looked it all up for the Muslim debate. In fact, I can send you the data on this. And since
Okay.
that is true, that generally speaking, that's when this is complete, then it's probably a very valid and good idea for why this was the age which was settled on.
I would have to look in the history of why we settled on 18, because I don't know that. That's very interesting to me.
Mhm.
But I'm just thinking, if a 15-year-old, 16-year-old, 17-year-old can have a baby,
Uh-huh.
I would think that their puberty is developed.
Are you saying that a
to the
13-year-old
point where
boy?
we shouldn't think it's ick if they're in a relationship?
Are you
with
saying
an
that a
older person?
13-year-old boy who is capable of ejaculation has completed puberty, ma'am?
if he can ejaculate and
Mhm.
impregnate,
Then he's
a
completed.
female?
No,
Yes.
he has not completed puberty just because he can
What is the
ejaculate.
completion part?
The com-
I mean, that's
complete-
just growing bodies. That's just a growing body. Like, if you can do the finality of puberty, which is create life, then
That's
you're
not the
completed enough
finality
in my
of
book.
puberty. Puberty is the stage between childhood and adulthood where your body is coming into its own and your organs are growing into what they're going to be as an adult.
Okay, well,
And so the
listen,
thing
listen.
is that, are you saying, I just want to make sure I got this on record, that you are saying that you think that a boy at 10 or 11 years old, because he's capable of ejaculation, that this means that they're done with puberty? Because that's an insane proposition, just so you know.
I don't know the boy side of it. I'm thinking of.
But if it was the
girl
case
side
with
of
the
it, and,
boy,
like,
then your argument that because they can have a
well, I
child
don't know.
means that they're done with puberty. A boy can have a child even before he's done with puberty. That doesn't mean he's done with puberty.
Well, what is that? What is done with puberty then?
Well, generally, it would be, so this varies from person to person. Some people complete puberty before other people.
Well, yeah.
But generally
But I think
speaking,
this is just getting into science mumbo jumbo, because I'm in perimenopause right now, but that could take 10 to 15 years before I go into menopause. And it's just like, okay, we've developed terms for different things and we're just talking in circles. But if you can have a baby at 13 years old what is ick about it if it's with a partner who's
Because
older
they're
than you?
children.